Hello Bond fans, welcome to the Bond Bulletin. Did you know that in 1963 the Socialist German Democratic Republic tried to out-Bond James Bond just months after the release of Dr. No? With 4 eyes only, Streng geheim, East Germany weaponized its state-controlled DEFA film studios to create a massive cinematic propaganda hit on a blockbuster budget. Casinos, bodies by the roadside, vials of poison, miniature cameras, mysterious meetings in the dead of night, and a refrigerator as the literal metaphor for the Cold War. This is the fascinating story of the East German answer to James Bond. To understand how this movie came to be, we have to look at the real-life events that inspired it. The opening of the movie drops a cheeky hint. The plot of this film is completely fictitious. Any resemblance to actual events and living people is intentional. That is a disclaimer you don't often see in movies. As early as 1959, the German Democratic Republic had publicized revealing details about the allegedly aggressive, fascist character of the West German military through the release of a NATO planning study known as DECO II, a document obtained by the Ministry for State Security, the Stasi, that had in reality been the work of an imposter. In it, plans for a military invasion of the GDR by Western forces were laid out in detail. On 18th of August 1961, the East German head of state Walter Ulbricht cited the faked plans in a televised address as another justification for the construction of the Berlin Wall. 6 years before 4 Eyes Only hit theaters, a real-life East German double agent named Horst Hesse had pulled off a stunning intelligence coup. Working under the cover name Horst Berger, Hesse managed to infiltrate the American Military Intelligence Division with headquarters in Würzburg, West Germany. His mission? Codename Operation Punch. In a plot twist better than fiction, Hesse successfully stole an entire safe packed with top-secret American documents and smuggled it right across the heavily fortified border into the GDR. The heist was a massive embarrassment for the West, unmasking over 130 US secret agents operating in the East. By 1962, the Cold War was already at boiling point. The Berlin Wall had just gone up, and the Cuban Missile Crisis had brought the world to the brink of nuclear destruction. The GDR needed a win in the court of public opinion. They needed to show their citizens that the Stasi, the state security, weren't just bureaucrats, but heroes protecting the homeland from Western aggression. At DEFA Studios, screenwriter Harry Türk fleshed out a fictionalized version of Horst Hesse named Agent Hansen, which would become East Germany's answer to 007. But while Bond provided lush and glamorous escapism on screen, the GDR weaponized their film as pure propaganda. Through the clever use of music, lighting, and set decoration, they brainwashed the audience towards who to root for. The best example for this is the American headquarters, in which the atmosphere is deliberately engineered to feel cold, sterile, and hostile even. It's lit with harsh neon lights, and the walls are covered in corporate strip paneling. The American general sits at the head of a massive long table, while his subordinates report to him in total isolation. There's no camaraderie here, just a cold capitalist machine planning an invasion, backed by a tense, anxiety-inducing music track. And those sunglasses, it's the cinematic way of telling the audience exactly who the bad guys are, the ones that cover their eyes. There is also an interesting Easter egg in the film. The US Military Intelligence Division operates under the cover of the Concordia Import-Export, much like MI6 did with Universal Exports in the Bond novels and films. Quite an interesting detail, I thought. When the movie cuts to the East German Ministry for State Security, the vibe shifts completely. The Stasi headquarters feels almost like a cozy intellectual living room. The lighting is warm and there are books and photos of communist figures casually scattered around. The Stasi officers are smoking and drinking coffee, and they're leaning over maps like a group of close friends. It's through this parallel editing that the movie presents its core ideological message. The West is divided by egoism, greed, and bureaucracy, while the socialist East is defined by solidarity, warmth, and human connection. And that brings us to the main character, the socialist answer to James Bond himself. How do you design a hero who has all the coolness of 007, but the morals of a dedicated communist? Meet Agent Hansen, who looks quite ordinary, a man who wouldn't stand out in a crowd. To play this character, the DEFA chose Alfred Müller, an actor who was virtually unknown to East German audiences at the time. And this was a deliberate choice. Müller didn't carry any cinematic baggage. He was a blank slate, designed to be the ultimate model of the ideal GDR citizen. And on the surface, he had plenty of that classic 007 DNA. On screen, he is highly intelligent, remarkably charming, and effortlessly talks his way out of lethal high-stakes situations. He carries sophisticated espionage gadgets, and he's absolutely prepared to use lethal force when his mission is on the line. But underneath that slick exterior lies the critical ideological divide between East and West. James Bond is a hedonist, fighting for Queen and country. He's motivated by luxury cars, glamorous casinos, and beautiful women. Hansen, however, is fueled by pure, unshakable socialist conviction. He isn't risking his life for personal glory or a paycheck. He is doing it to protect the socialist state and build a communist future. In fact, the film goes out of its way to show just how much Hansen sacrifices for the cause. For example, he has completely abandoned his own son back in the GDR to maintain his deep cover operation in the West. In the eyes of Western cinema, that made him a really bad father. But in the eyes of East German propaganda, it made him a flawless martyr for the collective good. But as we all know from James Bond, a great spy is nothing without some toys, and Four Eyes Only absolutely delivers on that front, with classic gadgetry we love from the genre. But remember, this is 1963. The creators couldn't just copy James Bond's Q branch, because the film was made at the exact same time Eon Productions was filming the first Bond adventure Dr. No. But still, Hansen relies on a sophisticated miniature camera that is also a lighter to discreetly photograph classified documents. He's even forced to sit through a grueling polygraph test, outsmarting a Western lie detector through sheer calculated psychological control. Every tool that Hansen uses is precise and practical. But to achieve his mission, he doesn't need a fancy laser or poison pen or shoe dagger. He simply needs to steal a refrigerator. Yes, you did hear that one right. During an unguarded moment, the American Major Collins accidentally lets a massive secret slip. The most volatile, highly damaging Western invasion plans aren't locked inside his heavy office safe. No, they are sitting inside his personal refrigerator. Don't ask for the reason, because I don't know. But Hansen knows this is his shot. He clears out the office and loads the entire secure document-packed fridge directly into the back of his car. He literally has the physical Cold War locked in his trunk, and escaping in this vehicle shifts the movie from a psychological drama into something you could regard as a high-octane action thriller. Hansen puts his foot down and races straight for the border. But his escape plan quickly goes off the rails when American military intelligence, of course, realizes they've been compromised. Sirens wail, the checkpoints lock down, and what follows is a frantic, action-packed showdown as Hansen races to cross the Iron Curtain before the entire Western apparatus cuts him off. And when he finally crosses into the safety of the GDR, the movie positions it as a triumphant victory for the socialist world. Hansen had successfully uncovered a massive NATO attack plan, single-handedly saving his country from an imminent invasion. And in the end, the propaganda worked flawlessly. In the first 3 months alone, 630,000 GDR citizens had been to theatres to see a socialist hero defeat the corrupt West. There was also great interest in Eastern European countries, naturally. The film was sold to Bulgaria, Hungary, and Romania, among others, and even to socialist Cuba. But as is often the case with the Cold War, the reality behind this secret gem of East German spy propaganda was far bleaker. The real spy, Horst Hesse, didn't actually steal a grand NATO invasion plan. No, he stole personal registry files. And while those files did expose 137 US agents working in the East, the big narrative of an imminent Western invasion was completely fabricated by the German Democratic Republic to legitimize the theft and justify their heavily fortified border. Worse still, the state controlled the narrative so tightly that they actively prevented the film's screenwriter from ever meeting the real agent Hesse. The real agent only found out that his story had been turned into a blockbuster movie when he saw it being screened at the cinema. He wasn't a glamorous superstar. He was a disposable cog in the GDR security machine, used to score a massive psychological win in a war fought on celluloid. So in the end, Four Eyes Only is a truly fascinating time capsule. It proves that at the height of the Cold War, the battle for the heart and minds of the public wasn't just fought with nuclear deterrence, but also with films in cinemas, where a single reel of film could be just as powerful as a missile.